Hello, welcome to Someone You Love with Joseph Antonio. I want to briefly say thank you to everyone who has supported, listened, and shared the past 4 episodes of Someone You Love. This show has a very specific message and cannot be shared without your support and love. So thank you. Today, I'm excited to introduce my 5th guest on the podcast, Hannah Rumsey. Hannah is a writer, editor, actor, and the host of Friends Missing Friends, a podcast and community dedicated to enfranchising platonic grief and friend loss. Hannah is also the creator and performer of 42 Days of Summer, a solo performance exploring the complexity of the loss of her best friend, Lauren Bajorek. This episode dives into grief and death, so please listen with that in mind. Enjoy episode 5 of Someone You Love with Hannah Rumsey. Hannah, I cannot start talking about you without talking about Lauren. And I think that that's something that is so there's no way that I can start this podcast without bringing her up. She is just so embedded into your life. She is so present in the things that you do. Mm-hmm. And there, I just can't begin without bringing her up. So, I just want to give you an opportunity to bring her up, talk a little bit about her. As many of your friends know, Lauren is a big part of your life, but to many of my listeners, they may not know that. So, anything you'd like to share, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like you said her name and I immediately choked up. I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, it's like, where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I know.
So in 2009, oh my gosh, I'm like, how far do I have to back up?
I know. I've given you an impossible task. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Okay. So in middle school and high school, I played the trumpet. That was it's important information.
I know love it. You're like, whoa. I was like, whoa, the trumpet. Oh, I'm glad I asked.
I promise this is relevant.
Okay.
And I was just all about band and everything. And then I went in 2009, I was a junior. It was the summer before my senior year. I went to the Interlochen Summer Arts Camp, and that's in Michigan. And it had a music camp. It also has all the arts, but a really big music camp where you rehearse and practice and have lessons 8 hours a day. And it sounds terrible. It sounds like a lot of work, but it was like heaven.
I bet.
Just amazing. Yeah, it is really fun. I think just rehearse all day sounds like a lot of work, but
for the artist,
it's like
yes,
I can live and breathe the art.
Exactly.
So I met Lauren in the registration line. So I had been there 5 minutes, right? Couldn't have met her any more immediately.
Sure.
And especially at the time when I was 17, I was very shy. And my mom and my dad were in line with me in the registration line. And I feel like my mom had a goal. She was like, okay, before I leave, I'm going to make her a friend.
Your mom is my mom. We must be related.
Oh
I have been there.
I know, and it's so sweet. And Lauren I didn't know Lauren yet. She was a stranger. She was standing right in front of us in line. And my mom just tapped her on the shoulder. And she literally said, hi, this is my daughter, Hannah. She plays trumpet. What do you play? Ooh. And she, I think Lauren's mom spoke for her too. Sure. So it was our moms were introducing us.
Yes.
And her mom was like, oh, this is my daughter, Lauren. She plays French horn. And then there was just long pause. And then my mom was like, okay, you should be friends.
Yeah. That is so sweet.
It was really sweet. Yeah. And it's funny because I was 17. So I was so annoyed.
Yeah. I was there too. I've been there in my life where love you, Mom. I know my mom's listening. My mom is definitely listening. There's definitely circumstances of times where she's been really eager to get me to meet people. Yeah. It is frustrating, but what a wonderful way to I mean, she changed your life in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and the connection was immediate, and it's just so beautiful when that happens with any two people. Like when you're just like, oh, have we been friends for 10 years?
Yeah.
You know, that kind of feeling. And we were at the age too where you just like, you want to spend all your time together. Mm-hmm. So for those 6 weeks, you know, when we're living and breathing music, and we can pretty much spend all day together. Mm-hmm. So we spent pretty much all day together every day for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like living 6 years. Yeah. Because like adult life, you have to go to work, you have to like, you see your friend 2 hours a week, you know, not like 24 times 7 or whatever it is. So yeah, we just like had this incredibly tight bond. And you know, when you're that young, you also, I don't know if I love the word naive, but you're very hopeful for the future. So we're like, we'll talk all the time, we'll visit once a month. Like, you know, we just had this like really like lofty view of the future. Yeah, our once a month visits didn't happen because school is busy. That's a lot of driving. Because she lived in Pennsylvania and I lived in Virginia. And we actually just visited once in 6 years. Oh wow. Yeah, but we kept up long distance friendship. Like we talked. Skype was the thing then. This was before Zoom. Yes. I don't know if you remember Skype.
I do. I like touched it twice. I like have. Yeah. But yes, it was a thing at the time.
Totally a thing. Yeah. So we were like, when can you Skype? When can you Skype? We would Skype for like 5 hours, just like hours and hours. And my mom told me, she said she always knew when I was talking to Lauren because she would just hear me like laughing so hard. Because that's one thing about Lauren is she was really funny. Yeah. And really goofy. And so I like to think that like when I goofy and silly, which I like to be goofy and silly, that I'm like channeling her, you know? So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Lauren is a big, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe Lauren's death was maybe a big turning point in your life, has like sort of changed the trajectory of what you do and the art that you create. Which if I were to like fast forward, it would lead to Friends Missing Friends, which is the podcast that you host. But I don't want to jump there quite yet. I have some time in between that I want to explore before we get to Friends Missing Friends.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the experience, the sort of the way you kind of say it is like the 7 years between 2015 and 2023, which is when Friends Missing Friends kind of was born. Like, can you talk about that 7 years in between, and if there were any sort of like what were you looking for artistically in that time? Was there anything that like helped, didn't help? What were you searching for?
Such a good question. Wow. I hope I can give it justice.
I believe in you.
Yeah, so her death was very sudden and unexpected. And there were a lot of questions surrounding how it happened and what happened. So the first few years I was just trying to get my bearings, and just kind of trying to be a human again. So yeah, the first few years were definitely a fog. I actually moved to Chicago a year after she died. And I think that her death was a part of that. I think I wanted to move before, but it kind of accelerated it, where like literally I was like, life is short. Like if I want to do something, I have to do it now. And my plan was to take improv classes. That was my entire plan.
Whoa. Okay. Work.
I had no other, like, I got like a random job that I, wasn't passionate about. I was like, I'm just going to take improv and then I'll just see what happens next. Yeah. Because I think like when someone close to you dies, a lot of times what happens is your life was this house of cards and it just falls. and you just have to like build a completely different house of cards. And I was like, okay, how about improv is the first card I put down.
I love that. I'm for that. I think a lot of people should pick up the improv card. That should be the first card that goes down. I'm with it.
I love that you are totally in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like I definitely abandoned other tracks of life, which was like a very academic track, where I'd go to grad school and just like, I'm sure that life would have been fine, but it would have been less, I think, creative, less flexible. And I kind of said like, F it, I'm going to do this creative track and just like see what happens. Sure. So yeah, I took improv, so fun, loved it. I think it helped me be present and be, just explore. And then, oh my gosh, I can't believe I skipped this because this is so important. So I took Jack Schultz's storytelling class at Green Shirt Studio. Shout out Green Shirt Studio.
That's right.
His storytelling class like changed my life. And I told him that a few times. I don't think he maybe understands that I literally mean it. I'm not just saying it.
He's like, oh, that's really sweet of you.
He's like, oh, thank you. I'm like, no, but you really did.
Yeah.
And the reason is this. So the program was like, I think it was 3 levels, and level 1 was like write a 5-minute story, level 2 20-minute story, level 3 a 1-hour show. So it was this perfect step-by-step build up to what I needed. And they were about Lauren, and you know, for the first 5-minute show or 5-minute story, I'm like bawling through the whole thing. And then but those baby steps helped me to get to the point where I could do an hour show. And so I did the hour show. It was middle of COVID, by the way. So because it was over Zoom and my family and friends had nothing else to do, they all joined and watched.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah.
And so like, I like to joke that like, if you want to do a confessional to all your friends and family, do a 1-person show because they have to go see it.
And then you get to tell them everything. They have to listen.
Exactly.
And it's under the guise of art. So therefore you can just say whatever you want to say. No, I'm just teasing. Yeah.
It's kind of true.
Sure.
Yeah. And so like that experience was transformative because for many reasons. So one, it was an unburdening, and I got to actually like tell my friends and family how I was feeling, what I was going through. And that truly felt like years of therapy. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I felt a physical change in my body after the first show. And also, after the first show, I went backstage. I looked at my phone. The date was July 19th, which is Lauren's birthday and the day that she passed. Whoa. And for some reason, I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. But it was like, she was like, I don't know. It was like she was sending me love. She was like happy for me.
Yeah. That's like fate. The world sending you a message. Lauren sending you a message. I'm with it for sure. Yeah, that's really cool. I actually want to continue exploring 42 Days of Summer is the show that you're speaking of, which was with the agency storytelling, green shirt kind of collective, if you will. And I you are the third person on this podcast to have a solo performance, solo show. And I really need to, honestly, the truth is, after I was doing some research on yours, I was like, I need to sit down with Cordy Nelson, because the Cordy as the director of Jack, of yours, I can't remember if she directed Susie's or not, but like Cordy is all over. Everywhere I go, I'm like, there's Cordy Nelson's name. I love
Cordy.
Cordy I'm gonna have to sit down with Cordy at some point. But your solo performance was directed by Cordy, and I would love to learn a little bit more about what the process was like, because you kind of started with 5 minutes, and then you started like, what was that process writing? And let's start there.
So I love the way Jack organized the classes, because you don't have to have a plan for what you want your show to be from the beginning. You kind of discover it as you go. And so I started just like with stories about the memories, you know, that I have with her. And then for the 1 hour show, I remember the moment it clicked, which I love that, like, any artist knows the moment where like you're like, yes, I figured it out.
Yeah.
A light bulb moment. Where I figured out how to weave everything together. And I figured I needed a through line of like the present moment, and then I like kind of step back into a memory, then come back to the present moment. Then it comes kind of full circle in the end. Yeah, it was a really cool process, like figuring that out.
That's really cool. We've finally reached Friends Missing Friends, which is this podcast and community that you've built that is connected and exploring the sort of friend grief and friend loss. And it was born from what I've read and what I've seen. It was kind of born out of this feeling, right, over these 7 years of searching, trying different artistic avenues out, and feeling like having a hard time finding a community where you felt like it was specifically had friend loss, because the amount of romantic loss, familial loss out in the world, and the resources that are out there are more plentiful than friend loss. And so you created this podcast again, and this community where you've given people an opportunity to connect to other people who have lost friends, lost platonic people in their life, and they don't know necessarily how to move forward. As an artist, are there any like specific tools on the tool belt that you picked up throughout that time that you felt like has aided you and continues to aid you as a podcast host?
What's crazy, I haven't even thought about that, but I'm sure that they have. Like, both you and I have done Meisner work at Green Shirt Studio.
There it is. We said it 3 times for you. 2.5.
And I love Meisner work because it's all about really connecting with the other person, really listening, like actually listening, not just like thinking about your next line or thinking of a question. So I am sure that has influenced like just my ability to be present, and listen and think on the fly. Like, I actually really don't prep a whole lot for my episodes, solely so that it's not too scripted. Like, I just try to keep myself open. Like, I'll make sure I know everything about the person, but I won't like script out my questions. I'll have like 1 or 2 questions tops. And then I just like let the conversation go where it goes. So far that's worked okay. I think, I hope.
I think so.
Okay.
I think that's wonderful. I mean, who knows? If it works for you, that's great. And I think that's what's important. That's what's important about being a listener. Like you're saying, in Meisner, as a podcast host, as an artist, as a scene partner, is you really cannot fake listening.
Yeah.
You can't pretend to listen. You're either listening or you're not. And I think that's something artists and humans do sometimes, is pretend to listen, pretend to hear, but like you're saying, are thinking about all the other things that are happening in our lives. That's something that I, as a podcast host, am learning to let go of, is kind of not thinking about what's happening next and listening to the thing that's happening now.
Yeah.
It's a skill. It's a skill that takes time as an artist, as an actor, as a podcast host. It takes time to like sort of trust that whatever is happening in real life is more exciting and more important than what's like happening in the head that you want to happen or that you've dreamed of or imagined. It doesn't always work that way. I'm interested in learning more about this community that you're building with Friends Missing Friends. And do you find that it is connected, or there's a bridge to an artistic community? Do you find that artists find that the community that you're building are connected? Do you find that they're far away from each other? I can't imagine it's the latter option, but like, do you find that they're connected, and in what ways do you find them connected?
It's so interesting. I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm in the beginning stages of building the community part. I've held two virtual friend loss grief groups. And you know, there was someone in Canada, there was someone in England. They just like found me on Instagram basically. Wow. And I think because the community right now is pretty small and deep, starting small and deep,
That's
working
right.
from there.
That's right. I love it.
So I don't know if there's a whole lot of crossover yet with the artistic community, but I definitely want there to be like some crossover. I don't know how though. I gotta keep thinking about that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think because I think grief, loss, anger, frustration, lust, all of these huge emotions that humans feel, humans try not to feel, are the pit of theater. They're exactly what people go to watch. They're our favorite shows. They're our favorite musicals. If you pick up a Disney movie and you press play and you watch it for 10 minutes, someone has passed away, someone is lost.
True.
You know what I mean? And so it's like they are the centers of our artistic lives. And I can imagine that building a community, as you continue to build a community, that you'll get a lot of crossover because people who have experienced such great loss, such great moments in their life tend to search for art, you know, because that's a way, that is the core of our job is we don't watch theater that's like, I'm walking to the store, grabbing my thing and heading home.
And everything's great.
It's always like I'm walking to the store and then the earthquake hits and all of a sudden I'm stuck here and I'm feeling all these feelings and I can't, and that's why we go watch the play. Yeah. So I'd be curious to know if that continues to happen, if you continue to see that as you grow your community.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like, so right now I'm taking a grief educator certification course. And the teacher, David Kessler, who's like really big in the very small niche of the grief world. Sure. So I'll like tell people to be like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, he's everywhere on Instagram. And then it's like, oh, on my Instagram feed.
Yeah. Your phone, he's huge. Yeah.
Yes. So he says that like, a lot of people's misconception is that when we are deeply grieving, we should watch comedy. But he said when we're deeply grieving, we should watch drama. And it's exactly what you're saying. Like, we want to see ourselves reflected. And like, without art, both in consuming it and in producing it, I literally don't know how else I would get through my grief. Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. So that's also like something in the future I would love to maybe have like writing workshops or storytelling workshops to help people like move through that, like Jack helped me.
So cool.
Yeah, because it just, I mean, it was transformative. So
yeah, that would be really wonderful. And I think I can imagine that that's an avenue for people to explore that can allow them to reconnect and sort of strengthen that feeling that they're having that they may not want to be acknowledging at the time, which I can imagine will be helpful and is also really beautiful and what the world needs, you know, that again, those are the stories that we love. Those are the stories that we like are like, oh my gosh, I love Cinderella. I love Finding Nemo. Everyone loves that. I'm like, that movie is so sad, right? But it's like people obviously love those stories because they remind them or they bring them back to themselves. Which I think is beautiful. You are the first, I don't know if anybody knows this, you are the first person to have written a love letter for one of my guests.
Oh, yeah.
And to also be on the podcast.
Yay.
It is a really wild thought to have both of those things exist. You were the first person I asked to write a love letter. And now you are a guest, and it's only fitting that I give you one in return. So I've got you one. It's so the thing is, when I first did this, it was a huge surprise. Like, it was like no one knew that it was happening. Obviously, you know it's happening because you wrote one for me. But still, I felt like it was just I felt like the only way that I could close this, the only way that I could end this conversation is that third branch of like, how does a community connect to an artist? So I've got a letter from Audra Skuodaitė.
Wait, how'd you wait, do you know each other? How'd this happen?
I don't know.
What?
We'll see. Let me read it to you. Let me read it to you. This is a love letter from Audra. I think anyone who meets Hannah instantly feels her warmth. She just has this kind, welcoming energy that makes you want to open up, even if you've only known her for a couple of hours. She creates space for real conversations so effortlessly. She brings you into her world by telling you her stories, and she truly listens to yours. There are so many things I love about Hannah because she is so many things. She's very caring, open, thoughtful, and funny. I love her laughter, which fills the room with joy. It amazes me how many different creative fields she's involved in. Writing, editing, filmmaking, clowning, podcasting. I think she's seen pretty much every movie and TV show ever made.
That's true.
And also, did you know that she can recite the alphabet backwards? Which I did not know. I also really admire her commitment to building a community that supports people through hard times. She started Friends Missing Friends after realizing that was the kind of space she needed while grieving the loss of her best friend. It's so powerful that her work comes from such a genuine place, from care, from love, from wanting people to feel seen and less alone. Hannah dives into her projects with so much passion and determination. I've honestly never seen a more ergonomic work home setup in my life. But she's not just her work. She's creative, funny, and above all else, a great friend. She'll ask you the most interesting questions. She'll go hammocking with you, tell you about the books she's reading, and whatever you're doing together, it always feels like time well spent. Audra.
That's so sweet. I'm getting all teary.
It was
oh my gosh.
a beautiful message to read for myself. Like, I read that message and was like, whoa, this is really beautiful and so wonderful.
Thank you. I was not expecting that. I thought it would be someone we both know. So you still surprised me.
I will say
Wow.
it was tough. I was like, how do I do this?
Oh my gosh.
This is yours.
What? I actually get a hard copy?
You do. You get a hard copy that you can take with you.
That's so sweet.
All yours. In fact, if you go way back over here, I've shown no one this, but since you're already in here, right? There's yours to Susie. And so I've got my copy for you, and then you get to take that home with you.
What?
And you can do whatever you'd like with it.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's such a beautiful idea. Like, you're doing a really beautiful thing. I hope you know that.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so much for listening to Someone You Love. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider leaving a review, sharing it with a friend, or following the show for more conversations like this. Until next time, take care, and don't forget to tell someone you love them. There it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was
appreciate
such
it.
a pleasure. And I'm so curious. How did you find her?
So she actually, I had to get out there and start hunting. I had reached out to Susie and was like, hey, Hannah's on my podcast. I'm looking to get a letter. I was like, there's a part of me that's like, well, like, it would be so wonderful to give Susie like opportunity to return the favor because she got it from you, and I was like, that's perfect. And I was like, or is there room for me to pick someone who she may not anticipate having a letter from?
Because I was expecting Susie just because of that
The flop,
swap.
right?
Yeah.
And so